Hi everyone. Today we're looking at when supply and demand are equal to each other, which is what gives us what we call market equilibrium. So let's have a look. What I've got for you here, we've got a demand schedule on the left and a supply schedule on the right. So this is how many quantity demanded of this good are demanded at each price. This is how many producers are willing to sell at each price. I don't know if you can see through my head down here. So that last one says $1.10. Okay. What I'd like you to do is draw one up in your book, demand and supply, plot out the points, draw demand curve, supply curve, and we'll go from there. So pause and do that. Okay, let's show what it looks like there and there. Right, so we see this demand and supply intersect, which means our equilibrium price is $3. This is where quantity demanded equals quantity supplied, and that they're going to sell 30 or buy 30 at $3. That is what will happen in this market. Now, why does it have to be this price? What we're going to look at is what happens if the price is higher, what happens if the price is lower. So let's have a look. What if the price increases to $4? Let's see what happens. Okay, price increases to $4. We don't have equilibrium anymore. We've got disequilibrium at this point. So here we are, $4. They demand 20 at $4. Consumers will demand 20, and suppliers, producers, are going with that higher price. They want to supply more. They want more profit. Consumers are a bit more hesitant to purchase. So suppliers will produce 40, consumers only want 20. That leads us to what we call a surplus. There is more quantity supplied than quantity demanded. And well, we can read off what the surplus is. Surplus is 20. They've made 20 too much. So what has to happen is that the price has to get lowered. Otherwise, they're just going to keep on producing too much, more than is what is sold. So that's how the price mechanism works. What will happen is the price will lower. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Okay, or if the price decreases to $2, so below equilibrium, we'll see what happens there. Again, disequilibrium. Okay, suppliers, they only want to supply 20 because they're not making much profit. They're going to put their time and effort into something that's a bit more profitable. Whereas consumers, they're happy. They want even more at this price, so they want 50. Right? This is what we call a shortage. And these terms, surplus and shortage, they are terms that we will use. They're specific terms to economics that we want to use. Quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied. There's a shortage. Some people will miss out. Okay, the shortage is 30. Okay, so what happens with these? When there is a surplus, producers lower prices. So they put things on sale. If they're not selling, they'll go, all right, we've got to cut the price on this. They'll sell it for a cheaper price. They have an incentive to do that. Otherwise, they're just getting nothing for it. They're selling it at too high a price, they won't sell it. And a shortage, producers have a huge incentive to raise price, right? People want it. Their stock is flying off the shelves. People want it. They would be silly not to raise the price. So what happens is the market is only steady at this equilibrium price. There's neither a surplus or a shortage. Okay, so the way I like to think of a surplus, I think the clearance rack at a clothes store is really how this works. So a lot of the stuff you see out on sale, usually those racks maybe out the front of the store, that stuff that hasn't sold as well as they would have liked. So they might be selling a jumper for $80 and they might have bought 1,000 of them, but they would have thought they'd sell 1,000 by now, but they've only sold 500. They thought, look, we've just priced this too high. So let's lower the price. We can't keep all this stock around. We need to move it on. So we'll cut the price to say $50 and we'll move that excess stock, that surplus. And the same way, a shortage, I think any sort of auction situation is a good example of what happens when there's a shortage. So eBay, 4 Taylor Swift tickets. I remember everyone went crazy for buying Taylor Swift tickets in 2023. This was before that even. 4 tickets, $3,500 Canadian. So there is a fixed number of tickets that can be sold. Now, artists like Taylor Swift, they don't like to charge too much because they look bad, whereas they know they could probably sell their tickets for $1,000 each and still sell out. So what happens is people buy them, they resell them, and there's only a few on sale now. So there's a real shortage. And these people who are selling them, these resellers, they're just acting rationally in their own best interest to get as much money as possible. So they'll put the price up high, knowing that they'll probably get it. So shortage will raise the price. Okay, we're going to look at how we illustrate market equilibrium. Pretty straightforward. So we've got a situation here, market for coffee. My dog again. Price of tea increases. So we should be thinking, well, tea, coffee, substitutes. Price of tea increases. That should increase the demand for coffee. So we'll just draw that in here. So what we do is we've got the original price, original quantity. We draw the shift. We've got the new price, P1. We can label it for clarity, Q1, new demand, D1. We've drawn that diagram correctly. Beautiful. That could be a couple of marks in the exam. That's great. We'll be drawing so many of these. Be easy. Just get into good habits. Now, explaining market equilibrium is a little bit more involved. So I'm going to give you something which we call the N4 structure for doing it. So we want to make sure we cover off everything that is needed to fully explain the situation here. So the non-price determinant, we give a short summary of the change in market conditions, describing the non-price determinant that is changing in the market. So that's not dissimilar to what I spoke about in previous videos about demand and supply. Same with the curve. You then state which curve is shifting on the model and the direction. So is it increase or decrease? Right, straightforward. Then we talk about the disequilibrium, the shortage or the surplus. So when one of those curves shifts, either demand or supply, you're going to get a shortage or a surplus at that original price. So if we go back, after the demand increase, demand is out here, but at the original price, but supply is here. So we've got a shortage. So that's what we're explaining there. And then what signal does that give to the seller? Does that signal them to raise their price or to lower their price? That's what we want to describe. So we're describing what happens to the price. And in this part, we are explaining what happens to the quantity actually sold. So there will be a contraction or expansion along the other curve, the curve that doesn't shift. So describe that expansion or contraction and why it occurs. So law of demand or law of supply. We'll go through this in depth in class. So get this down. I'll show you the worked example of it. So market for coffee, that price of tea increases. Tea and coffee are substitute goods. Therefore, as the price of tea increases, consumers switch their demand to coffee. Straightforward, we've referred to the non-price determinant. The reader knows what is happening. Curve. This increases demand for coffee from D to D1. Beautiful. It complements what we've drawn in the diagram. It makes it easy for the person to read and understand. Shortage or surplus. At the initial price of P, this leaves a shortage as quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied. Simple, straightforward. Signal. This shortage signals to producers to raise their prices from P to P1. So now we've P to P1, we've got that. And Q, the quantity. the price rise causes an expansion in supply. So the price has gone up. Producers want to sell more coffee because it's now more profitable, right? So they will expand supply from Q to Q1, and that's due to the law of supply. Okay, so look at your diagram when you're reading this and writing this down, and it will make it quite clear. All right, we'll practice some of these in class, and we'll be doing just fine. If we get this down, it's very fundamental to the course. Okay, thank you.